continuación con nosotros va a estar Stiven Kerestegian, director global de innovación de IKEA Group y experto en diseño estratégico, multidisciplinario y en gestión de innovación. Stiven, ¿estás ahí? Hola Stiven, bienvenido.
Muchas gracias por tenerme, muchas gracias a la Universidad Mayor, a los organizadores y a Corfo.
Muchas gracias a ti. Te dejo el escenario para que empieces con tu charla.
Gracias. Bueno, yo soy chileno, pero he vivido la mayoría de mi tiempo en el extranjero, así que me presento en español y feliz de recibir las preguntas y contestar las preguntas en español al final, pero la presentación la voy a hacer en inglés, donde me siento mucho más cómodo y estoy mejor preparado. Bueno, como acaban de decir, me llamo Stiven Kerestegian, soy diseñador, emprendedor social, estratega de la innovación. Y cambiando en inglés, I'm going to talk about life-centered design, innovation at IKEA, and a few projects in between as cases to show. So in the slide here, you can see some selected projects showcasing a little bit of my journey, sort of my professional career. I've worked, it's about 20 years. I've worked at several large global organizations. I've been a consultant to many organizations as well in the US and in Europe. I've also been a founder and an entrepreneur, actually in Chile. And for the last 8 years now, I've been living in Scandinavia. I came here originally to work with Lego, running their open innovation. Then I worked with the Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design, where I really was, I caught up and I updated all my learning and my understanding of the disruptive technologies that are really powerful tools. And for the last 1.5 years, I've been leading innovation at IKEA Group, Inca. But to start with, maybe we should talk about design or people-centered design, which is really the way people describe design and innovation, that is very much focused on people and on people's needs, desires. What I have seen in my professional career in the last 20 years is a little bit of an evolution of the focus of design. Around the year 2000, there was a lot of focus, or designers were brought in to be the experts in aesthetics and form and function, a little bit of the IDEO design school, to really making products really beautiful, desirable, to sort of win in the commercial space. But around the year maybe 2010, designers or creatives shift their focus a little bit and to embrace technology, specifically data, connectedness, networks. And then you have companies like Google emerging, where creativity really opened up a whole new dimension for design. And then maybe 10 years ago, there was another shift into a business model innovation and then participation and really using creativity to come up with new business models. I think Airbnb is a good example of this, actually founded by a designer. Of course, this is not instead of, it's not instead of form factor, then data, then business, is yes and. So understanding form function, understanding technology, understanding business models, and always focusing to serve people. But I think that's the point that I want to make here is maybe we should rethink this unique focus on designing just for people or having people-centered design, because I think that's part of the reason why we find ourselves in a very uncomfortable situation where we're just designing everything and that people think that they need or want or desire, and then we end up becoming incompatible with the environment. So what I want to suggest is that the next step for design is to have a more holistic focus on life-centered design, and maybe start using the term not people-centered design, but life-centered design, so that we focus on all life, on all ecosystems and the biosphere, all the things that we actually need in order for people to be successful and to have a better life, right? So if we want to design better things for people, we have to design things for all life. So if we dig into this a little bit and try to understand how do you design for all life, I think as designers, we have to evolve new sensitivities. We have to be able to design for things that we cannot see with our eyes. We cannot see them maybe because they're too small, like a microorganism or like a virus, as we all have been impacted in the last few months. But also design for things that we cannot see because they're too big or they move too slow, like climate change, for example. Another dimension that we have to become responsible for is the impact that our creations have in time. So be able to design for the macro, for the micro, and in time. A good example of designing for the impact of our stuff in time is the algorithms that engineers and designers working in Silicon Valley have done in social media. We're now just starting to realize the impact in time that they have in society, and we have to become responsible for that. So designing for life requires us to grow new skills. Another aspect of this might be learning from nature. So if we want to design for all life, the technology developed in nature through millennia is something that we can learn a lot from. Nature rarely finds one solution for a problem. Nature usually has many different styles, many different ways of solving a problem, because that's how we get away from having a very fragile solution. If you have one solution, like a globalized solution, and then something happens where that solution is no longer viable, then you're broken and you're basically in a very fragile situation. So how do we design to be more resilient? How do we design to be actually even better than resilient, to be anti-fragile, referencing Taleb's book, where a system or a solution that is resilient can withstand a stress, right, or a disruption and come back to what it was meant to be. But a solution that is actually beyond that, anti-fragile, learns with stressors, learns from tension, and improves itself in time. Can we start to design things like nature and design systems and solutions, products, services that become anti-fragile and improve in time? And then finally, maybe this focus from in the startup world and then in the entrepreneurial world of finding or launching the next unicorn. A unicorn is, of course, a company that is worth $1 billion. But again, if we take Uber as an example, it's a company that is cannibalizing, is sort of disrupting the taxi industry in the whole world. But that company is owned and managed by very few people in Silicon Valley. So it's one solution, and then if something happens to that ownership or to that leadership team or whatever decisions they make, it has a very global impact. I suggest, and we've been working together with, it's a little bit of a movement in the design world, that we should maybe think of, instead of designing one company that's worth $1 billion, you could take that same amount of investment and have 1,000 companies that are worth $1 million. Therefore, creating many styles, many ways of solving problems. And maybe the seahorse can become an example of what we aspire to do. So platforms in a distributed manner, many ways of solving things allow us to be more resilient, more anti-fragile, and ultimately have better design, better solutions that are compatible with life. That's what we try to do with Chilote Shoes, which is a project that was launched in Chile, and now we run and operate it here from Scandinavia. We really looked at trying to solve a problem from a complete holistic perspective, right? The whole value chain. Can you create a company that brings value to everybody that participates in the process? That has a positive impact from the materials and the sourcing, the people that work and create the products, of course, the people that run the company, and also the final consumer. And what we try to do here is connect people like Waldina, who lives in Calcorupe in the south of Chile, in the Patagonia. She's a master craftswoman. She can knit 3 pairs of Chilote shoes a day. She loves teaching others. She's really proud about her culture and her skills. It's something that is very natural to her. But she lives in a very remote area. The options for her to work are very limited, and of course they don't pay very much. So the Chilote Shoe Project really try to address this. And find a viable and appropriate work offer for her, and something that is compatible with her, that makes her feel proud, and that is part of our culture. She doesn't have to really change the way she does in order to produce value. And it's about connecting Waldina with people in the first world, from New York City to Berlin, who really value this, who really value products that are made slow, that are made with care, with pride. that they want to make a positive impact through their purchasing power, through the consumptions that they make. And really what we've done here is design a sort of intervene and create a bridge or connected, create a new connection that didn't exist before between an artisan like Waldina and these conscious consumers that are the people that buy the product. Here's a few pictures of the product itself. If you do things from the beginning with this approach, it's very easy to get a B Corp certification or to become climate positive. Because you're not trying to sort of reinvent or fix things. You kind of address them from the beginning in the design process, in the design thinking process, in the business model, and the participation of all the people involved, right? And then again, if you can achieve this, then you have a really strong narrative. You have a really powerful story that people are very proud and they want to share. So we've been able to, sell 15,000 pairs of shoes with minimal investment and almost zero investment into ads or advertising, because the people themselves want to share their Chilote moment. They have something meaningful to talk about, and we really leverage the qualities of the product, of the business model, of the values of this in order to make everybody that buys a product sort of an ambassador. And most people that buy a product always come back and buy another pair as a gift. So it's a quite interesting journey. Of course, this is only one company, so the idea is to inspire thousands of other people to create these seahorse companies and have a very better way of creating new value in a way that's compatible with nature and is sustainable. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about design thinking. I know that that's a big sort of subject matter here today, and so I've been involved in this evolution of design thinking and explosion into all kinds of into industry. Basically, everybody's approaching it. And the next slides, I'm just trying to visualize a few different ways that you can think of or understand what design thinking is. The design thinking element is I see it as more as the beginning of the design process, and it's really where you educate yourself. You really start to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve, right? And you analyze all of the variables that are important there. You really focus on what is the thing, what is the potential opportunity or the solution that you want to do. Now, you don't design it, you don't execute it. You just figure out what it is. Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it an experience? Is it a policy? Is it what is it? Is it a platform? And that's how I think of design thinking. And then once you know what it is, then you want to implement that in the best possible way. And that is more connected to traditional design, the practice of design. That's where you develop the solution, you implement the solution in the best possible way. So design thinking, you figure out if it's a product or a service or whatever it is, and design execution, you manifest that in the best possible way. Usually it's simple, it's intuitive, it's got all those good qualities and it's desirable and people want it. So that's one way of looking at it. The problem with this way of looking at it is that people that are not familiar with the process, they tend to think that it's a very linear process, that it has a beginning and an end. So maybe another way to look at it could be that design thinking is the discipline, or design is the discipline of creative problem solving, of applying creativity to manage or to remove the burden of complexity for people. And creative problem solving really is what empowers innovation. So you could think of it as this graphic here, where you understand the problem, then which is the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we, what is the brief? What is it that we're trying to solve? The opportunity, how we will do this, and then the solution is the what. Is it a product or service experience? This is maybe connected to Simon Sinek's analysis of Apple, where they say think differently. And then the how is a very intuitive, simple design. And then the what, it used to be computers, now it's phones, it could be really anything. Another, and maybe perhaps even a simpler way to think about it, would be using this stool, un pisito, where you have, he has 3 legs, right? And all 3 legs are necessary. You need to have this focus on people and planet, or life, as we just discussed. You have to have an understanding of technology. The technology has to be mature enough so it works. And if it's too soon, it won't work. If it's outdated, it won't work. And then, of course, business. This has to be compatible in an economic system. And then you really need all three legs. If you remove one of them, then the stool falls. It will not be balanced. So you need to have balance between the three. And then the quality of the innovation or the value that's produced is only going to be as strong as the weakest leg. And in this context, you could think of design thinking as the structure that provides the balance between those three legs. So design thinking is a stool, and then the output is innovation. And then, of course, in today's world, you have to practice open innovation. You can't design in a vacuum. You can't design alone. You can't just hire a bunch of creative people, engineers, designers, and expect them to sort of solve problems for society. So the companies and processes that can involve more people or more stakeholders into the process are the ones that are going to be more successful. So whether it's customers or partners or students or society in general, the more people that you get involved in the process at the appropriate level, because these people are, most people involved that will have different perspectives, they will have different skill sets. But if you can figure out how to involve them at the appropriate level, then the design and the results are going to be better. The work I did for Lego, this is probably a great example for open innovation, where we completely flipped. It is, so the technology is quite simple. It's using a platform, social media technology, to sort of run a process online. And then, the focus on people is that we invite non-Lego employees to participate in the process. The world is full of very passionate Lego fans. They have a lot of ideas. They feel that they're close to the brand. They want to participate. But really, the big disruption here was in the business model, and it's a change in the business model because we were changing where the value is created. In the traditional way that Lego products are developed, there's a designer inside of Lego as an employee that comes up with a new idea and develops a new product. But here, this is coming from the crowd. So the process is very simple. Anybody can submit a new idea of a new Lego set. They can use social media to get 10,000 people to support their idea, to Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be. And once they pass that gate, once they have 10,000 people, then Lego goes into a formal Lego review where they look to see if it doesn't contradict any of the brand values or the strategies, and then they actually make the product. The person that submitted the product is credited as being the designer of the idea, and they also get a 1% of the revenue that's made by that product, therefore participating in the process in a very open way. Okay. So I often think about, our roles as designers and what is our contribution as designers, what's our contribution to society. And I always sort of come back to the same thing. What is our most precious asset? It's not, our creativity or how comfortable we are with technology or understanding it. So it really is our time, right? For everybody, not just designers. But if we really believe that time is our most finite and precious asset, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't buy any more of it. Doesn't matter how rich you are. The time that you have on this planet is really the time that you have to make impact. The reason why I've sort of dabbled back and forth from being an independent consultant, an entrepreneur, but also always coming back to big companies is because I feel that that's where you can make a lot of impact. You can have a lot of resources aligned with the things that you're trying to do. And that's really one of the big reasons why I decided to join IKEA a year and a half ago. It's a fantastic company with a tremendous vision. This is Ingvar Kamprad, the founder. He had this idea of creating quality for many people. Not, if you look at the pyramid there and you think of it as the socioeconomic pyramid, companies like Apple and Lego make products for the tip of that pyramid, right? For the rich people. And IKEA really is focused on the middle of the pyramid and pointing down, where you can make more impact, you can influence more people at a grand scale, at a big scale. A few of the things that the company represents, LEDs IKEA had a big sort of influence on making LEDs. It's one of the great stories that we tell internally. We had a really big business, own factory of traditional light bulbs, but the information came in, and Ingvar realized that really the LEDs were far superior, more sustainable products. So we changed all of the light bulbs in all of our stores, but we realized that wasn't enough, and we really needed to enable all the people to actually make that change as well. So he decided just one day to close the factory, foregoing a 200 million euro a year business, because it was the right thing to do. And the journey since then, IKEA has been a big part of lowering the cost of LEDs per light bulb, per bulb, from 20 euros or $20 to $1, making it the most accessible, the most affordable, and the most sustainable lighting solution in the world. IKEA was a big part of that. A couple more examples why it's a purpose-driven company. 50% of the leaders of the management are women. So 50-50, actually it's more than 50 women. Huge investments in renewable energy, 2.5 million solar panels, close to 600 wind turbines. In 2020, IKEA produced more renewable energy than it used in its whole value chain. And we have a goal to become a completely circular business by the year 2030. So a lot of pressure to be able to do that in just 9 short years. So IKEA's vision is to create a better everyday life for the many people. And that's really the why, right? That's really the why of why we wake up every morning and we jump out of bed, and we're really excited to sort of contribute to this. And the how would be, currently, this is a 7-year strategy, would be what we call the 3 roads. And that is to make everything that IKEA does has to be accessible to the largest number of people possible. Of course, it has to be affordable, so these people can actually afford to buy it. And it has to be sustainable. So we cannot pursue anything that doesn't check all 3 of those boxes. And of course, we're increasingly higher aspirations in each one of those boxes, and the synergy that's created across all 3. And then the what can change, right? Today, it's a big focus on renewable or home furnishings, but we're dabbling and starting to diversify into many different areas. Those are sort of captured here in this 3-year strategy with this, we call it our 10 jobs. But really is about turning life at home, providing a better quality of life at home in a number of ways, right? Through services, through renewable energy. We have a big renewable energy, food, many other areas, and I'll share a little bit of those things in the coming slides. But first, just to show, the last year has been extremely challenging for everybody. This is a little bit of our year cycle is it starts in September. So we actually finished the 2020 calendar year already. We're in 21 now. But this graphic shows a little bit of what that experience was like. We started the year very normal, with our blue represents our sales in our physical stores, and the white dots there is the visitations to the stores. And then the yellow is online sales, so sales through e-coms. And the black dotted line represents the visitations online. As you can see, by March, we had to close 75% of our stores. But that actually provided a huge opportunity to aggressively accelerate our learning and our capability in online sales. And the 180,000 co-workers really came together. And it's almost a miracle what you see here in this graphic. Over 3.6 billion visitations to IKEA.com. Our store visitations were down, should have been close to 1 billion, but down to 700 million relative to the closures. But an increase in online sales of 60%. And if you can see the graphic towards the right, the people that started buying stuff online stayed. So that increase in online sales stayed there even when we opened up a stores and we went back to the traditional business. All right, let's talk about strategy, development, and innovation at IKEA, which is basically my mandate as head of innovation. I have a dual mandate. On one side is co-creation, and the other side is innovation. Co-creation is about really going far with the many. It's about enabling 185,000 co-workers to participate in the innovation process, sort of an open innovation approach. How do we enable them to harness all the powerful tools that innovation, design thinking, creatives have in the appropriate way for them? And then innovation is about going fast with just a few people, because you can't go fast with many people, right? But it's more like professional trained innovators, and how do we go fast? But of course, we're always in representation of the many. So I'll talk a little bit about what we built in the last year and a half relative to enabling co-creation, and then I'll give you an example of innovation as well. So from a co-creation perspective, the goal there is to democratize innovation for the many, right? Starting with the co-workers, but eventually also our customers and everybody else. And this is about two things. There's more like a soft value, like a soft element, and then more a hard element. On the soft side, is really about a shift in the mindset, in the approach that everybody has. How do we sort of enable or kickstart an entrepreneurial mindset? How do we enable coworkers to become more curious, more optimistic, more proactive relative to risk taking or relative to problem solving? How do we raise their confidence? That's one thing. And then on the other side, the tools, which is basically the way that you do that, the way that you raise their confidence and enable an entrepreneurial mindset by enabling them to adopt new tools and ways of working. These are, of course, design thinking methods, all of the things that designers and innovators use: visual analysis, collaboration methods, tools, and also digital and physical facilitation, so that training the trainers, training people so that they become confident and they think a little bit more designers and more entrepreneurial. And then I'll show you a few of the tools that sort of support this. One of the things that we launched actually not too long ago is a library of these co-creation methods and tools. It's a comprehensive library available through the company's intranet with all these different tools in order to support at different stages of a project. It doesn't have to be a highly innovative project, but it's any time that somebody's running a project, a new initiative that is not part of the running business. Here you have a set of tools that they could easily find. There's some easy training tutorials, video tutorials, and how-tos, and enables them to sort of leverage or lean on these tools in order to run their projects. Another thing that we're doing is global co-creation challenges. So these are open innovation challenges where there's a problem that we might be going after, and we want to enable all of the co-workers to participate somehow. Not just because they might have great ideas to implement, but also so that they could have ownership, so they could feel part of the process. So what we've done is created a capability to launch these global co-creation challenges for some very strategic things that we want to try to accomplish. So far, it's been very successful. The first challenge, I think we're number 5 now, but the first one, as you can see with some of the Google Analytics displayed here, had almost 23,000 employees participate across 31 markets. You can see the tally of the participation on the markets in the right there. And also some fantastic ideas. And also it's a great way to communicate strategy in a very lean and quick way, and allow people to participate that in a proactive way. And then lastly, for the co-creation movement, probably the most powerful tool is this open innovation platform, which is a gallery of proven solutions that every market, so every IKEA market has locally, they solve problems, and they're very creative and innovative as well. So the purpose here is to encourage all of these markets to document these proven solutions in a very comprehensive way, to basically put all of the information associated with that solution, how to implement it, what was the impact, in order for us to encourage others to copy with pride. So if I'm sitting in England and somebody in Spain had solved a problem that I'm trying to solve, I don't have to start from the beginning. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I could do a search in this database, in this sort of IKEA knowledge base, and I could find a solution that's already proven, and I could adopt it and personalize it and localize it to my local market. What you see here is a quick search I did with the COVID. And as you can see, there's 144 solutions found on how to handle the COVID situation. And then everything is now digital. We also deployed physical co-creation spaces in our hubs, and also developed a whole bunch of interesting games for people to participate more hands-on in the real world. So the co-creation program cuts across all of these methodologies and really enables people to participate in a very proactive way in the innovation process. And then I'm running out of time here, so I'll pick it up a little quicker. Innovation, again, going fast with a few. The core innovation team is really about envisioning and enabling the Inca or the IKEA of tomorrow. And the example I'm going to show here is, I mentioned food, so that's one of the very strategic areas that we're expanding into. We have over 400 restaurants. But we're also investing in urban farming, which is the capability to grow your own food right where you live, instead of having all of the CO2 impact that's associated with moving food around the globe. So we've invested heavily into industrial urban farming solutions, as the picture that you see on the left. These are big giant warehouses where you grow greens and lettuce. We've also invested in, if you go to an IKEA store in some parts of the world, all of the greens, the lettuce that you eat in the restaurants is actually grown right outside the store in a container in the store. So it's not transported over long distances. It's grown right there. And we've also invested in companies that enable individuals, so people like you and I, to grow their lettuce and their greens at home, especially for those that live in places that are not sunny or have longer winters, to be able to do that year round. So one of the innovation challenges that I'm sharing here is, how do we onboard people to this? How do we, people might think that this is the future, this is far away, but it's actually here today, and the technology is quite simple. So how do we enable people to take the habitual change to embrace urban farming? What we've done is, so Szczecin in Poland is a 10 million population city where IKEA doesn't exist, but we will be opening a store next year. So what we did was we rented an apartment in the city center of Szczecin 1 year before the IKEA store opens, in order to introduce people to the brand and to the values and to the products of IKEA. And we called it the IKEA Home of Tomorrow. In the context of the stores, where we, one of the installations there was introduce them to the urban farming concept. We work with designers and sort of experienced designers, museum designers, to really develop a way to onboard people in a meaningful way, where they can see what IKEA is doing at an industrial scale, the investments that IKEA is making, and then also seeing how that might impact at a local scale in their city, their neighborhood, and then at a personal level, the things that they can do to create this habitual change. So it consists of sort of showing with a digital technology how the lettuce would grow. So there's a little wheel that they spin, and they could say in 1 week, you would see the lettuce grow this much, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. There's a little peephole there that you can learn about and understand of all the different things that IKEA is doing at an industrial scale, at a store scale, and sort of connecting it all into one experience. And then, of course, integrating co-creation, asking them questions. What kind of things would you like to grow? Is it lettuce? Is it greens? Is it tomatoes? Whatever it may be. What would you like to see? And we use a little bit of machine learning here, where we, they just put a little sticker to answer these questions, and we put a camera and taking a picture of every day of where the stickers are located, and then aggregating that data in order to extract the insights. And then, of course, introducing them to the product so they could actually see what it feels and what it looks like. Here's a short video that shows the installation in the Home of Tomorrow in Poland. As you can see, they turned the wheel, they could see sort of how the lettuce is growing, and they could interact with the product in a very tangible way, sort of removing that barrier and bringing them a lot closer to understand something that is potentially very new to them, right? And so it's a way to introduce them to the whole concept, and really encourage them to make that habitual change and to try it out. Something that is new and that has tremendous impact into creating a sustainable food independence and sort of being more anti-fragile relative to disruptions, as we have seen in the world today. So that was my last slide. I will leave you with a few questions that I put in Spanish, unas preguntas importantes que creo que son que todos como diseñadores nos tenemos que hacer. Que es el por qué y qué es lo que vamos a diseñar, a quién esto va a favorecer, o a quién o a qué esto va a perjudicar. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti. Muy interesante tu charla. Gracias por esas preguntas. Nosotros también tenemos unas preguntas a ti que nos llegaron del público mientras estabas dando tu charla, así que tenemos tiempo y vamos a dar paso para contestarlas, ¿ya?
Encantado.
¿Cómo decidir qué metodología ágil implementar? ¿Depende del tipo de negocio, sector?
Bueno, metodologías ágiles están muy de moda en los últimos años. Al final del día son herramientas nomás, son procesos. Claro, hay ciertas metodologías ágiles que, dependiendo para qué queremos aplicar, hay unas que son muy útiles para diseñar software o aplicaciones o apps, pero al final del día yo creo que la calidad de las personas que participan en el proceso es clave, más importante que yo diría que la metodología ágil, y el nivel de ejecución de la metodología es muy importante. Así que no tengo opinión sobre cuál sirve para qué cosa, pero sí bien, eso viene del mundo del desarrollo de software, así que yo diría que las metodologías ágiles en realidad son más relevantes para el desarrollo de plataformas de software.
Genial. Segunda pregunta. ¿Ha sido tu carrera como diseñador una ventaja para poder trabajar en innovación y nuevos proyectos? ¿Por qué?
Sí, claro, como dije, el rol del diseñador es simplificar la complejidad o traducir la complejidad en algo que es más humano, que es más abarcable, que es más relevante para las personas. Y al final del día, eso es lo que es la innovación. Em, si nosotros vemos nuestro rol como diseñador como un rol más superficial, que nos llama cuando algo está todo decidido y lo tenemos que hacer bonito, estamos limitándonos tremendamente cuál es el nivel de impacto que podemos tener. Entonces yo diría que como traté de ilustrar en los ejemplos que di, en las gráficas y con el pisito, con esta metodología, el diseño, la innovación va de la mano. Y la mayoría de los líderes de innovación empezaron en el diseño, en la arquitectura.
Tercera pregunta. Esto te lo preguntan porque saben que eres chileno y la pregunta dice así. ¿Qué prácticas del mundo escandinavo crees que deberíamos implementar en Chile para fomentar y potenciar el ecosistema emprendedor chileno?
Bueno, yo creo que Chile tiene una ventaja importante que es la existencia de Corfo, que es una herramienta que no existe en muchos países de Latinoamérica, así que eso es algo importante. Viniendo de aquí al diseño democrático, que es lo que se llama el approach de diseño en IKEA, es algo también muy importante. Al final, tienes que conectarte con personas que tienen otras cualidades las que tú no tienes. Si tú eres una persona creativa que sabe desarrollar un producto, sabe identificar un problema, sabe desarrollar un producto, entonces asóciate con alguien que trae las otras patitas de ese pisito a la mesa, que tiene una especialidad en tecnología o tiene un entendimiento de los negocios. Trata de como generar ese balance entre los skills de las personas, de los atributos de las personas que están incorporando. Y lo otro es la gran diferencia que existe entre la cultura latinoamericana, diría en general, y Estados Unidos, Europa, es que la mayoría de las veces uno no le va a funcionar. Y lo más importante es empezar, hacer algo, y equivocarte rápido y aprender de eso. Entonces, tu nombre o tu reputación no se quede pegada a algo que no funcionó. Lo único que importa es lo que vas a hacer, no lo que hiciste en el pasado. Así que desde el ángulo cultural yo creo que también hay cosas que aprender de eso. Tenemos que aprender a tener memoria más corta y mirar hacia el futuro y saber que cada cosa que no funcionó fue un aprendizaje que nos posicionó para sí poder triunfar en el futuro.
Genial. Cuarta pregunta. ¿Puedes darnos algunos consejos para encontrar nuestro mercado objetivo?
Nuestro mercado objetivo.
¿Mm?
Bueno, pilotear. Muchas veces cuando uno emprende, genera un producto, desarrolla algo, hay mucha hipótesis. Asumimos muchas cosas. Vemos datos y los tratamos de traducir, a manifestar en una solución, pero en verdad son hipótesis, no sabemos de verdad. Así que la mejor manera, yo creo que para entender tu cliente, entender cuál es tu mercado objetivo, es pilotear, es llevar algo al mercado, actuar como si fuera de verdad. No esperar hasta que esté todo perfecto para lanzarlo, para ponerlo al frente de las personas, hacerlo lo antes posible y siempre pensar de una manera iterativa. Pensar que cada interacción con tu potencial mercado o persona es una oportunidad de aprendizaje y a veces aprende que ese no es el mercado, a veces aprende que sí es, pero tienes que cambiar algunas cositas. Así que yo diría eso, es salir y interaccionar, poner las cosas frente a las personas lo antes posible y eso, sistematizar el piloteo.
Yeah. Creo que ya respondiste una parte de la siguiente pregunta, pero te la voy a hacer igual por si tienes algo más que agregar. ¿Qué tipo de perfiles profesionales conforman tu equipo de innovación? ¿Tienes alguna recomendación para armar equipos?
La mayor diversidad posible. la mayor diversidad posible. Y diversidad en todos los ámbitos. Diversidad en cultura, diversidad de género, diversidad de valores, diversidad de técnicas, de oficio. Eso es lo más importante. Suena fácil decirlo, pero en realidad eso es lo más importante porque distintas personas van a tomar protagonismo en distintas etapas de desarrollo. Y mientras más diversidad tengas dentro de tu equipo, más flexible vas a ser para poder adaptarte al desafío que está ahí, ya sea en ventas, en crecimiento, en desarrollo, en implementación, en negocio estratégico. Así que si lo redujo a una palabra sería diversidad.
Qué lindo. Sexta pregunta. ¿En qué punto vale la pena frenar la iteración y ser más comprometidos con una idea y desarrollarla? Cuando en tu experiencia esa idea madura lo suficiente como para que en el proceso del design thinking este proceso evolucione y no desaparezca por otra.
Si entiendo bien la pregunta, yo creo que lo traté de contestar ahí en decir que no es un proceso lineal, es un proceso iterativo. Entonces, creo que respondí en parte anteriormente, en decir que trata de salir al mercado al frente de tus personas lo antes posible. Yo creo que hay un cambio de paradigma del pensamiento del producto al servicio. En el producto, no sé, compañías como Lego, incluso IKEA, que estamos en la mitad de esa transición, desarrollan un producto que se demora a veces un par de años. Y bueno, cuando está listo el producto, como que se terminó ese proceso y ahora se empieza a ganar dinero, se empieza a comercializar. Hay como un principio y un fin. Yo creo que ese mundo está quedando atrás muy rápidamente, incluso para los productos. Hay que pensar un poco más como los servicios. Es decir, mientras antes me pongo al frente del cliente, antes empiezo a aprender y paro de hipotetizar, paro de asumir cosas. Tengo información real, información que puedo aplicar de manera sistemática a la próxima versión o los ajustes a las mejoras que hago del producto. Así que creo que la respuesta es lo antes posible. Y no... La perfección es muchas veces el enemigo, que queremos que algo esté perfecto antes de ponerlo, pero muchas veces perdemos mucho tiempo en perfeccionar algo que creemos que es lo importante y cuando lo ponemos en el mercado nos damos cuenta que habían otras cosas más importantes, así que lo antes posible, ponerlo al frente de los usuarios.
Genial, muchas gracias, Stiven. Qué orgullo tener un chileno haciendo cosas tan relevantes. Y gracias también por representarnos en este summit.
No, muchas gracias por invitarme y un orgullo y un honor de poder hablarle directamente al mundo del diseño, la innovación en Chile.
Que estés bien. Que tengas
Gracias.
un buen día.
Chao.